Get ready for plot holes. Lots and lots of plot holes. In the opening scene, we are introduced to Andy, who has just arrived in Morocco to meet one of her team members, Booker. Booker informs her about their new assignment involving the rescue of kidnapped girls in South Sudan. He tells her that a former CIA operative named James Copley is freelancing these kinds of jobs and wants them to do it. Andy initially refuses to take the job because it is against their rule, never work for the same employers twice. However, Booker persuades her to at least come to the hotel and talk to the rest of their teammates, Nikki and Joe. Upon arrival, the group is overjoyed to meet each other after a long while. The rest of them seem to be willing to take the job, but Andy doesn't trust James. As a result, they decide to have a meeting with James to gather more information on this matter. In the next scene, Andy and Booker meet James at a local restaurant, while Nikki and Joe keep an eye on them, maintaining a sniper position. James explains the situation to them and asserts how they can make a difference in the world. Suspicious, Andy asks for the reason why James left the CIA, to which he responds that his sick wife passed away and ever since, he couldn't bring himself to go back. Hearing all of this, Andy, despite her reservations, ultimately agrees to take the job. The crew then sets off on their mission to South Sudan via helicopter. They arrive there in the evening and wait for the right time to infiltrate the kidnappers' base. As the night falls, they silently neutralize the guards and make their way into the basement. Much to their surprise, they find no hostages in the bunker, and instead, they notice that they are under CCTV surveillance. This makes them realize that they've been set up, but before they can react, they are ambushed by a group of armed military force who unload their guns on the four of them. The crew collapses to the ground, seemingly dead. The military force then turns their backs, believing that they are dead. But in an unexpected turn of events, the four of them start to heal at a rapid pace, expelling bullets from their bodies. They soon get on their feet and take down all the armed forces in a matter of seconds. All of this is witnessed by James from the camera. It's like a superhero movie, but it's not. It's fresh. It's Netflix. In the aftermath, the crew buries their bloodied clothes in the sand before boarding a train. During their discussion about their next steps, Andy claims that they must find James because he knows who they are. Here, it's revealed that the four of them are century-old warriors with unexplained regenerative healing abilities. They use their vast experience to work as mercenaries, taking missions that help people. This is the first time that their secret abilities have been disclosed. Simultaneously, in Afghanistan, a squad of Marine soldiers led by Nile is tasked with investigating a group of women believed to be held captive by a terrorist. During interrogation, a woman silently gestures towards a room where the terrorist seems to be hiding. As a result, the soldiers break into the room and shoot the enemy in the chest. Nile then proceeds to check his pockets, but the terrorist fatally slits her throat. Back on the train, the four super warriors share a dream of Nile's death, which makes them realize that she's one of them. Andy then instructs the three of them to find James, while she goes to get Nile. On the other hand, we learn that Nile has survived as she wakes up in a medical tent. Her teammates are shocked when they notice that she doesn't even have a scratch from the injury. As a result, they decide to send her to Germany for more testing. This news saddens Nile because Germans do weird tests. So she sits in a corner and listens to her favorite song to calm herself down. But before she is transferred, Andy tracks her down and puts her at gunpoint. Nile asks about her identity, to which she introduces herself as Andromache of Scythia, because if it's not dorky as hell, it's not believable. She then knocks her down before abducting her from the military base. A while later, Nile regains consciousness and finds herself in the trunk of an army vehicle. In an attempt to escape, she kicks open the trunk and jumps out. Andy notices this and stops the vehicle. She then shoots her in the back of the head and waits for her to recover. When Niall finally opens her eyes, Andy tells her to accompany her if she wants the answers. The scene then cuts to England, where we are introduced to a pharmaceutical executive named Stephen Merrick, who is giving a presentation to potential donors for stem cell research. He tells them that he has the technology capable of eradicating human disease and extending lifespan. All he needs is investment. After the presentation ends, James, who is also present there, shows the video of Immortals to Stephen. This leaves the latter in shock, so he orders James to capture the team as soon as possible.
Looks like my half-brother and his magic butthole friends are at it again.
Meanwhile, Andy and Niall board a drug trafficking plane and make their way to the rendezvous point, Paris. Niall still doesn't believe in Andy and think that she drugged her with something. However, she is speechless when Andy reminds her of the terrorist who slit her throat. Following this, Andy takes a nap, during which Niall secretly ties her to the chair and holds the pilot at gunpoint. She threatens him to land right now. When Andy realizes what's going on, she comes up with a brilliant plan. She asks the pilot to play dead and then fakes a shot, making it look like a murder. This obviously freaks Niall out, but Andy assures her that she can fly the plane. As a result, the scared girl reluctantly unties her, but she soon realizes that it was a ruse. The two then engage in a duel, but Andy, being an experienced and professional fighter, overpowers her. She finally convinces Niall to join their team, pointing out that she is no longer a Marine anymore. She's now an angry immortal charity worker. Upon landing in Paris, they head to an abandoned church where Niall meets the remaining crew. Over dinner, she learns more about their immortality. Booker, before Niall, was the youngest immortal from the 18th century, while Nikki and Joe have been together since the 12th century. The oldest immortal is none other than Andy. As they converse, she reveals that they are not truly immortal. Their ability to heal eventually stops without warning, which is what happened to a guy named Lycan. That night, Niall experiences a disturbing dream that awakens the entire crew. She recounts dreaming of a woman confined in an iron coffin, drowning in the middle of the sea. The crew informs her that she dreamt of the female immortal, Queen. Andy then reveals that when she and Queen were attempting to free women accused of witchcraft hundreds of years ago, they were caught and accused of witchcraft themselves. When the townspeople realized that they couldn't kill the two of them, they separated them. Andy somehow managed to flee the captivity, while Queen was locked in an iron coffin and tossed into the sea. Since then, she has been drowning and reviving in an endless loop. Hearing all of this, a visibly disturbed Niall walks out to take some time alone, but she's followed by Andy. Suddenly, a group of soldiers dispatched by James arrive at the church. Upon hearing a sound, Andy and Niall get back inside, only to discover that Joe and Nikki have been taken away, leaving an injured Booker behind. It turns out Booker has been blown up by a grenade, and his injury is very deep. Due to this, it will take him a little longer to heal. As he regenerates, Andy kills all of their assailants one by one. After she returns, they pack up their things and make their way to another hideout. Meanwhile, Joe and Nikki are taken to James in England, who then takes them to Stephen's research lab. Stephen explains that he intends to use them for stem cell research and will conduct experiments on them to unravel their regenerative abilities. He also asks James to bring Andy and Booker, while Nikki and Joe are sent to the lab. After extracting all the samples they need for their experiment, James asks Stephen to release them, but the latter refuses out of selfishness. Dudley has always been a bully boy. On the other hand, Andy, Niall, and Booker arrive at another hideout. While Booker tries to locate James via his computer, Andy notices that she's still bleeding from the wounds sustained earlier. Realizing that she isn't healing, she walks out to a pharmacy and buys a bunch of med supplies. She then returns back to her car and takes some time to grapple with the realization that her immortality has waned. On that same night, Niall wakes up from another bad dream and steps outside for some fresh air. There, she finds Andy, and the two talk about their families, also expressing the pain of being immortal. Their conversation is soon interrupted by Booker, who claims to have located James's whereabouts. Wasting no time, the trio drives towards the same, but as they prepare to break in, Niall refuses to join them. She says that she's got a family and wants to be with them before it's too late. This time, Andy lets her go, even allowing her to take the car and a pistol. Following this, Niall heads to the train station, while Andy and Booker enter the building to confront James. Once they find him, Andy demands information about her friend's whereabouts. At this point, Booker unexpectedly shoots her from behind and ties her up. He then admits that he set this up because he thinks Stephen might find a way to end their immortality. However, he starts to panic upon seeing that Andy isn't healing. Shortly after, Stephen and his men walk in and capture the two super warriors. James tries to protest, highlighting Andy's non-healing state and her potential death. However, Stephen doesn't seem to care, as he is willing to torture the immortals indefinitely to study them. When James continues to insist, he is knocked down by the guards. Stephen then takes Andy and Booker to his lab and restrains them alongside the other crew members. Elsewhere, Niall arrives at the station, but she soon finds out that her pistol is empty. Realizing Booker's betrayal, she heads back to James's place and demands to know what's going on. James then confesses that he has been doing research on Andy and her crew. He also tells her about all the good things they've done for humanity. He thought of helping the world by apprehending them, but he was wrong. Now that he has a change of heart, he decides to help Niall in rescuing her crew members. James then leads her to Stephen's highly secured research lab. He briefs Niall about the patrolling guards and the research lab situated on the 15th floor. He also hands her a master card that can access any door of the building. With this, Niall arms herself with a gun and begins fighting the guards, making her way in. She soon locates the crew members and frees them. The five are together again, and they make their way towards Stephen, taking down all the guards on their way. This time, the team prioritizes protecting Andy because she can't heal if she gets shot. They eventually break into Stephen's office, but don't find him there. Just then, they notice the elevator going down, so Booker, Nikki, and Joe pursue via stairs, while Niall stays with Andy. However, it turns out to be a trick, as Stephen confronts the two women, holding them at gunpoint. Just when it seems that the bad guy is about to win, Niall and Andy come up with a plan. They actually perform the same trick from the plane. Andy plays dead, which acts as a distraction, earning Niall enough time to tackle him. She then grabs Stephen and jumps off the 15th floor before landing on a
Car crash may not have killed Lily and James Potter,
but that fall sure as shit killed Duds. A while later, she slowly recovers and comes to life, while Stephen is killed. In the aftermath, the group drives away from the scene and pulls over at a restaurant to discuss Booker's fate. After a while of deliberation, Andy talks to Booker in private and tells him that they have decided his punishment. The group sentences him to loneliness, forbidding him from contacting them for the next 100 years. Andy and Booker then share an emotional hug, as they both know that they won't see each other ever again. After this, the rest of the group members meet with James, who explains how his research revealed that their past missions had a greater effect than they ever knew. According to him, the descendants of the people whom they had rescued are going on to help the world in many different ways. With renewed faith in their existence, the group allows James into their team. Andy instructs him to maintain their secret and find missions where they can have an effect. 6 months later, in Paris, a depressed and drunk Booker returns to his apartment, only to be greeted by Coin. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.